Okay. All right. So yesterday, or last night, I went ahead and streamed the first hour of by Bill Cooper. Again, it is being restreamed by OccultAgenda, who did some edits, and I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of the edits that he mentions on his site. Says, and he published this back in April 27th, 2012. He says, this is the complete series. All music has been edited out of this version. This practically have no influence on the understanding of the series and will save you hours in the end. Originally, the series is 43 hours long, but with removed pauses and removed talk about outdated meetings, I have saved you around 4 to 5 hours. Apart from that, nothing has been touched and is presented here as it was in the Hour of the Time radio show hosted by William Bill Cooper. You might want to keep a pencil and paper to hand to try to listen to all the lectures in order. Otherwise, you will fail to fully comprehend the latter episodes. It's hard to explain what it's really all about, but all you have to do to find out is watch in all its entirety. You will not regret it. Okay, so without further ado, I will go ahead and play it. It is about 50 minutes and 39 seconds long.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm your host, William Cooper. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we begin the origin, the history, the dogma, and the identity of the ancient mystery religions which are now known as the mystery schools, the Order of the Quest, Freemasonry, the ancient Order of the Rose and Cross, the Knights Templar, the Sovereign and Military Order of the Knights of Malta, the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, the Priory de Sion, the Thule Society, are sometimes known as the Thule Society, the Order, the Skull and Bones, the Russell Trust, the Jason Society, the Scroll and Key, the Illuminati, and I could go on and on and on and on. But the most important thing to realize is that they all have been collectively known throughout the ages as the mystery schools, the Illuminati, which literally means illumined ones, international socialism, communism. They are all one and the same, as you will come to know. And you will understand perfectly how they've been able to infiltrate all of our society. What you hear tonight does not necessarily reflect my views or beliefs or religion, nor those of WWCR. We have to begin in the beginning with every story and every history. And we have to begin at the beginning of mankind. And the beginning is the beginning according to the mystery religion. And they believe wholeheartedly that man is a product of evolution, not of an extraterrestrial race, and not of the creation of some benevolent God. They believe that the tree-dwelling ancestors of man were among the most intelligent beings of their distant age. And when these creatures finally abandoned the trees and walked fully upright, freeing their hands to serve as implements of their minds as well as their bodies, there began the most successful evolutionary drive toward higher intelligence ever witnessed in nature. As ground dwellers, these creatures were easy victims of the great predators who hunted them down by day and surprised them at night as they huddled in clearings or in caves. They could not compete in strength, ferocity, or speed with their attackers. Armed with little except their hands and what their complex brains enabled them to do with those hands, they had to think or die. For untold thousands of years, most of them met early, violent deaths. Only a few in each generation had the good fortune and the ability to outwit their enemies. And these favored ones survived long enough to have and rear offspring. The unwary, maladroit, or stupid died early. And folks, I'm afraid that the stupid who live today are going to die early also. But back to the beginning. Their offspring, if they had any, were left to starve or be eaten by predators. Natural selection was operating on the earliest types of man with grimmest intensity. Perhaps no other extant creature has undergone so severe and protracted a period of selective elimination. Yet, here and there, small groups managed to survive because they had the intelligence to use sticks, stones, and clubs to defend themselves. Crude and puny as these implements were, they were weapons, and their possessors were the first creatures who could kill without having to come in direct contact with their antagonist. As the great beasts grew larger and either faster or more formidable, man became ever more watchful, ever more successful in pitting his wits against mass and power, more and more adept at slipping out of trouble, and as the challenge grew greater, so did his brain. For the laggards on both sides got left behind in the race for the future. And we are still engaged in that race for the future. The steps and the development of man's brain are revealed by the progressively larger brain cases which appeared with the passage of centuries. Basing our judgment on the improvements in tools and weapons which took place as the intelligence of their inventors increased, we can construct some of the ways in which natural selection may have worked to bring about a doubling in size of the human brain. Many edible nuts are too hard for even a caveman to crack between his teeth. Accordingly, they were useless to early man until some genius of his day discovered that any nut could be opened if it were just placed upon one stone and struck hard with another. Better fed, the family of this innovator proliferated while the others died off. Perhaps centuries later, while a man sat cracking nuts between two stones, one stone broke, and the broken edge cut his hand. Previously, men in the same situation had thrown the broken stone away and nursed their cuts. But this man started thinking. He possessed an original thought. Since the edge had cut through his skin and drawn blood, it might also cut through the skin of the small animals he caught, making it easier to get at the meat. The first knife was invented. He and those close to him, and those intelligent enough to imitate them, increased in number, and the rest died off. They had a cutting tool which made it possible for them to skin and eat meat in less time, so they had more time for hunting. Many of the descendants of this exceptional man became increasingly skillful at breaking and chipping hard stones into sharper tools and weapons. And if you've been to a museum of natural history and you've seen these fine, beautiful flint arrowheads and spearheads, then you know that it took patience and great skill. And this means a further development of the human mind. Natural selection favoring better knife makers went on for hundreds of thousands of years, according to those who guard the secrets of the ages, and even according to modern science. A great many centuries later, a young father foraging for his brood may have come upon a long straight stick splintered at one end. Well, he pulled and chewed at the splinters until only one stout point was left, or at least that's how we can imagine that it was done. It seemed to him a very useful stick, for it was sharper than the digging sticks which the women used. He may have remembered a night during his boyhood when a great cat had charged his family's campsite and dragged away a younger sister. Now that he had small children of his own, the memory of that attack was ever present. Lately, he had seen fresh panther tracks. Another family not far away had been attacked and the mother had been killed. His dawning intelligence told him his pointed stick might be a better weapon against big cats than the clubs which he and the other men carried. So for many days he kept the long stick near him, even when he was laughed at for having what was regarded as a woman's tool. Not only did he possess a greater intellect than his fellow men, but he possessed more courage to resist their laughter. Then one night he heard a faint rustling. He whispered a quick warning to his family. Suddenly a dim shape charged at him in the darkness. Kneeling, he raised the point of his long stick toward the beast. It sprang, clawed at him savagely, then fled. The creature had struck the point so hard that the blunt end of the stick was shoved deep into the ground. Next morning, following a trail of blood, the man found a panther dead from a punctured chest. The long, sharp stick had saved his life and the lives of his family members. In the same situation, less perceptive men, armed only with clubs, would have been killed. From that time, he, his sons, and their sons carried impaling sticks whenever big predators were near. Foresight, genetically transmitted to their descendants, had given them a new weapon, which they used with devastating effect against their natural enemies. Perhaps many generations later, a bright descendant of the inventor of the impaling stick mated with the daughter of a man who had thought of throwing a club at fruits, nuts, and small animals on the lower branches of trees. Now and then, this brought down an extra meal. The man who knew how to defend his family from feline prowlers soon learned from his woman the new way to collect additional food. And their young family thrived, and some of the children, with good mental inheritance from both sides of the family, showed an even higher order of intelligence than either of their parents. With impaling sticks added to their clubs and cutting stones, men no longer had to be such furtive food gatherers. The hunted gradually evolved into hunters. And in times of famine, when battles over food were fierce, those with impaling sticks threw them with deadly accuracy at members of other hunting bands. Sharper stone knives and spears gave a double survival advantage during times of crisis. But the most telling gains were the increasing sharpness of minds. However incomplete our knowledge of human ancestry, there is scarcely any doubt that the development of brain power, of intelligence, was the decisive force in the evolutionary process which culminated in the appearance of the species to which we belong. Natural selection, they believe, has brought about the evolutionary trends towards increasing brain power because brain power confers enormous adaptive advantages on its possessors. It is obviously brain power, not body power, which makes man by far the most successful biological species which living matter has produced. Even with man's new weapons and tools, it did not take him very long to decide that in this world the single greatest enemy to be feared was the darkness of night and all the unknown dangers that came with it. Simply stated, man's first enemy was darkness. Understanding this one fact alone, one can readily see why the greatest and most trustworthy friend the human race could ever have was, by far, heaven's greatest gift to the world, that glorious rising orb of day, the sun. And with this simple truth understood, we can now begin to unravel the most ancient and still the most successful religion upon the face of this earth. Its success lies in its ability to remain hidden from the rest of the people. But first, let me assure you folks that no people of the ancient world believed the sun to be God. In point of fact, every ancient culture and nation on earth have all used the sun as the most logically appropriate symbol to represent the glory of the unseen creator of the heavens. In the Old Testament it says, quote, "The heavens are declaring the glory of God," unquote. That's in Psalms 19, verse 1. In the Old Testament, quote, "The Sun of Righteousness will arise," unquote. Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. The ancient peoples reasoned that no one on earth could ever lay claim of ownership to the great orb of day. It must belong to the unseen creator of the universe. It became, figuratively speaking, not man's, but God's sun. Truly, God's sun was the light of the world. As I stated before, folks, in the dark cold of night, man realized his utter vulnerability to the elements. Each night, mankind was forced to wait for the rising of the sun to chase away the physical and mental insecurity brought on by the darkness. Therefore, the morning sun focused man's attention on heavenly dependence for his frail, short existence on earth, and in doing so, it became the appropriate symbol of divine benevolence from heaven. For without the sun there was no light, there was no warmth, and nothing could grow or live upon the face of this earth. So just as a small fire brought limited light into man's own little world of darkness, likewise, the great fire of day served the whole earth with its heavenly presence. For this reason, it was said that the God of the Bible is a consuming fire in heaven. And so he was. It was accepted by all that man was bound to a life on earth, but the sky was the abode of God's Son. He resided up there in heaven. Ancient man saw in his male offspring his own image and likeness, and his own existence as a father was proved by the person of his son. It was assumed that God's Son was but a visible representative of the unseen creator in heaven. So it was said, quote, "When you have seen the Son, you have seen the Father," unquote. Said another way, quote, "The Father is glorified in his Son," unquote. Ancient man even with his limited intelligence at that time, had no problem understanding that all life on earth depended directly on life-giving energy from the sun. Consequently, all life was lost without the sun. It followed that God's Son was nothing less than man's Savior. Since energy from the sun gave life, and we sustained our very existence by taking energy in from our food, which came directly from God's Son, the sun must give up its life, supporting energy, so that we may continue to live. God's Son must give his life for us to live. Now, I know that if you are intelligent out there listening, you are making some connections here. You see, the mystery schools believe that Christianity is a perversion of the mysteries. And while it was plainly true that our life came from and was sustained each day by our Savior, God's Son, it was and would be true only as long as the sun would return each morning. And our hope of salvation would be secure only in a risen Savior. For if he did not rise from his grave of darkness, all would be lost. All the world waited for his imminent return each morning. The Father would never leave us at the mercy of this world of darkness. The heavenly promise was surely that, quote, he would come again, unquote, to light our path and save those lost in the darkness. Logically, even if man himself died, as long as the sun comes up each day, life on earth will continue forever. Therefore, it was said in the ancient texts that everlasting life was the gift that the Father gives through his Son. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that we may have life everlasting on earth. And the ancient text did not mean for you personally, but on earth everlasting life. That is the interpretation of the mystery schools. Since evil and harm lurked at every turn in the fearful dark of night, all evil or harmful deeds were naturally the works of darkness. And with the return of the sun each morning, man felt more secure in his world and therefore was at peace. Therefore, God's Son was, with his warm rays of hope, the great, quote, Prince of Peace, unquote. And of course, the reverse was equally true. The evil of night was ruled over by none other than, quote, the Prince of Darkness, unquote. Hence, evil is of the dark, or the devil. It was only a short step to see that the light of God's Son equated with righteousness and truth, and evil with darkness. From then on, it was simple to understand. Light was good, dark was bad, and the priests of the ancient mystery religion always followed the light. They always looked toward the east. They considered themselves to be illumined. That being true, then the great orb of day, God's Son, could rightly say of itself that, quote, I am the light and the truth, unquote. We should all, in their words, not mine, give thanks to the Father for sending us his Son, spelled S-U-N, in case some of you were getting confused. In every instance where I have mentioned the word Son, it has been in reference to the Son, S-U-N. For the peace and tranquility he brings to our life is even called solace. Solace is from the word solar, which means sun. Are you beginning to see the light? We now have before us two cosmic brothers, one very good and one very bad. One brings the truth to light, with the light of truth. The other is the opposite, or in opposition to the light, the opposer, the prince of the world of darkness. It is at this point we come to Egypt. More than 3,000 years before Christianity began, the early morning sun Savior was pictured in Egypt as the newborn babe. The infant Savior's name was Horus. The early morning sun, our newborn babe, was pictured in two ways. The dove, known as the bringer of peace. The hawk, the god of war who punishes the enemies of God. Today in government we still use these terms, doves and hawks. And that's how powerful this hidden religion is that we use the terms of this religion even today and know it not. At daybreak, this wonderful newborn child is of course born again. Hallelujah. Horus is risen. That is what hallelujah means. Even today, when the sun comes up, we see it on the Horus risen or horizon. His life was also divided into 12 parts, or 12 Horus hours, the 12 signs of the zodiac. But now, what about the evil brother of God's son, that old prince of darkness himself? In the Egyptian belief system, he was called Set, or sometimes Typhon. We are told in the Bible that when God's son died, the world was left in the hands of the prince of darkness at sunset. Sunset. Do you understand? God's son was killed by the prince of darkness, Set, at sunset. It was generally observed that God's son could be depended upon to return in the same manner that he left, namely on a cloud, and every eye will see him, unless, of course, you're blind or dead. Keeping in mind that God's son not only represented the light of truth, but was put to death by his enemies who could not endure the light of truth in their life, it was taught by the ancients that the very act of opposing or denying the light of truth to the point of killing it happened in one's own mind. When we are confronted with harsh realities of life, the truth, the light of truth, which we do not wish to face and which runs counter to our views, such truth is put to death by your mind and in your head. Therefore, God's Son, the truth and the light, is put to death at the place of the skull, or skull place, located somewhere between your ears. This putting to death of the light of hope in your mind is always accompanied by the two thieves: regret for the past and fear of the future. Don't go away, folks. We have to take a short break. I'll be back right after this pause. And of course, God's Son goes to his death wearing a corona, which in Latin means crown of thorns. Remember the Statue of Liberty? It was given to us by Masonic France. To this day, kings still wear a round crown of thorns symbolizing the rays of the sun. Now, as far back as we can go into the ancient world in our research, we find that all known cultures had a three-in-one or triune God. The very first Trinity was simply the three stages of life of the sun: newborn at dawn, mature or full-grown in its full power at 12 noon, and old and dying at the end of day, going back to the Father. All three were, of course, one divinity. The Trinity is no mystery in the mystery schools. The Egyptians knew that the sun was at its highest point in the sky, or high noon, when no shadow was cast by the pyramid. At that point, all Egypt offered prayers to the Most High God. As stated before, to the ancients, the sky was the abode, or heavenly temple, of the Most High. Therefore, God's Son was doing his heavenly Father's work in the temple at noon. The world of ancient man kept track of times and seasons by the movement of the sun, daily, monthly, and yearly. For this, the sundial was devised. Not only the daily movement of the sun was tracked on the round dial, but the whole year was charted on a round calendar dial. Examples are ancient Mexican, Mayan, Inca, Aztec, Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Celtic, or Celtic as some pronounce it, Aryan, etc. And with this method, certain new concepts emerged in the mind of ancient man. Since the earth experienced 4 different seasons, all the same and equal in time each year, the round calendar was divided into 4 equal parts. This represented the complete story of the life of God's Son. This is also why we have in the Bible only 4 Gospels. Of this point there can be no doubt, for Tertullian and many early church fathers stated this exact fact themselves in their own writings. And this, the mystery school claims, is why the famous painting of the Last Supper pictures the 12 followers or houses of the sun in 4 groups of 3, the seasons, with the sun in the center alone. On the round surface of the yearly calendar, you draw a straight line directly across the middle, cutting the circle in half. One end being the point of the winter solstice, the other end being the point of the summer solstice. Then draw another straight line crossing the first one, one end of the new line being the spring equinox, the other end being the autumn equinox. You now have the starting points for each of the 4 seasons. This is referred to by all major encyclopedias and reference works, both ancient and modern, as the cross of the zodiac. Thus the life of God's Son is on the cross. This is why we see the round circle of the sun on the crosses of Christian churches. The next time you pass a Christian church, look for the circle, sun, on the cross. On December the 22nd, the sun going south reaches its lowest point in the sky, our winter solstice. At that lowest point, the sun stops moving on the sundial for 3 days, December 22nd, December 23rd, and December 24th, in the southern constellation known as the Southern Cross. Hence our Savior, dead for 3 days, died on the cross. The Southern Cross constellation, that is. This is the only time in the year, folks, that the sun actually stops its movements in our sky, according to the mystery schools. On the morning of December the 25th, the sun begins its annual journey back to us in the northern hemisphere, bringing, of course, our spring. Therefore, on December 25th, the sun is born again. And to this day, his worshippers still celebrate his birthday. It is at this point that we should look at the significance of the recurring number 12 in the Bible. First, 13 is said to be unlucky for humans. It is a heavenly number and represents the Son plus the 12 equals 13, or Christ plus the 12 disciples equals 13. It's unlucky for a different reason, folks. And I will explain that on another program, but it has to do with the persecution of the mystery school, the mystery religion. It would be well to get a Bible concordance and look to see how many times the number 12 is used in the entire Bible. Remember, the mystery religion is a religion of the heavens. Also in the Bible you will find many combinations of the number 7 in the mystery religion that represents the 7 stars of the Pleiades. And you can see the emergence of the mystery religion in the UFO movement when the Pleiadians come to talk to Billy Meyer in Switzerland. Oh my, how we are deceived by these people. Here are a few examples of the use of the number 12 in the Bible. The 12 months of the year, the 12 apostles of the sun, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 brothers of Joseph, the 12 judges of Israel, the 12 great patriarchs, the 12 Old Testament prophets, the 12 kings of Israel, the 12 princes of Israel, God's Son and temple at 12, and there are many more. All these examples, and countless more, derived directly from the ancient world's fascination with the 12 signs of the zodiac. Now remember, folks, what I'm giving you is the teachings of the Mystery School, and this does not necessarily reflect any of my own beliefs or my own religious beliefs or those of WWCR. We cannot fight against these manipulators unless we know who they are and what they believe. And what you want to believe is your own business. As we noted before, folks, the year was divided into 12 equal parts, or months, and to each month was appointed a heavenly symbol or astrological sign. 3 of these signs made up one season, and the world, or the heavens, was divided into 4 separate seasons. Each of the 12 monthly signs were called houses of the heavenly zodiac. The astronomers of Babylon divided the sky into 12 houses. They did this to account for the fact that the planets were not always exactly in the ecliptic, but appeared to wander a certain number of degrees either side of it. They therefore had to assume that each sign of the zodiac extended its influence through a fixed portion of the sky, which they thought of as a house to which a planet could return when it completed one of its journeys about the sun. The great god of the day had its house in Leo, the Lion of Judah, where he ruled at the head of his splendor. The moon ruled in Cancer at the right hand of the sun. The other planets were given 2 houses, one for day and one for night. And since the zodiac divided the sky into 12 equal portions, each of these houses was also equal, comprising 30 degrees, or 1/12 of the 360-degree circle. And the houses and signs of the zodiac were as follows. Aries was the ram, or lamb of God. Taurus, the bull, the golden calf. Gemini, the twins, which represented Cain and Abel. Jacob and Esau are Jesus and Satan, for in Mystery Babylon, Jesus and Satan are brothers, and in some sects of the mystery religion, they are the same entity. Cancer, the crab. Leo, the lion of the tribe of Judah. That can be found in Revelations 5, verse 5. Virgo, the virgin, spring birth of God's Son, or Mary. Mary, or Marie, means pure, thus Mary, the virgin, the mother of God, when God is reborn or born in the spring. And that is where the mother holding the child, Isis with the child, Horus, and all through the history of the world you will find a virgin holding a child in every culture, every language, in every continent of this earth. Libra, the scales. Scorpio, the scorpion, the backbiting traitor, Judas. Sagittarius, the archer. Capricorn, the sea goat, or the goat of Mendes. Aquarius, man with the water pitcher. Pisces, the 2 fish. The age that we are leaving at this point in time is the age of Pisces. And according to the mystery religion, we are entering into the age of Aquarius very soon in our future. And to them this has great meaning, for it means the dawn of the new age, the age of the illumined man. The number of the man is 666 in the mystery religion. Today, we have expressions when someone dies. We say things like they passed, or they passed on, or they passed away. The ancients said they passed over from one life to another. Over what? Over the river. And so it was with the coming of spring. As God's Son is resurrected from the death of winter to his new life in spring, this is why Christians celebrate the resurrection with a sunrise service at Easter. And the Jews, who knew this ancient religion from their time in captivity in Babylon, celebrate the same with their Passover. With this knowledge, we now add the fact that the first decan of the astrological sign of Virgo is Coma, or the desired one of the nations. This was pictured by the ancient astrologers as a virgin girl holding a newborn babe. Hence our Madonna and Child motif. So in the spring, our Virgo, God's Son, is born of a virgin. Incidentally, the astrological symbol for Virgo is the letter M, or Marie, which means pure, hence Mary, the pure virgin. And all through every culture you will find other representations by other names of the Virgin Mother with the child. Isis with the child. Horus, born of a magical intercourse when Isis changes into a bird and flutters over the dead. Osiris. Osiris representing the sun, Isis representing the moon. I will tell you the meaning of the child Horus other than the sun in the morning, probably on another episode of the Hour of the Time. Now, we belong to one another. According to the mystery school, we are part of God's creation. We are part of a great fraternity of man, according to them. We are creation's voice to sing praise to God as we gather in the morning. The morning, folks, to pray. The very time of day recalls our creation and our new creation in Christ. During the gathering time, reflect on this mystery. Using the silence, the sounds of morning, the Psalms and other scriptures, be aware that the rising sun is the image of Christ, our Son and source of life, and that is taken right out of a Protestant church's leaflet calling for the congregation together for the Easter sunrise service. Next we read at 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 4 that God's Son is the chief shepherd. This word chief is very important, for at 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 6 and again at Ephesians chapter 2 verse 20, God's Son is called the chief cornerstone. Now, in our research into the mystery schools, we find that the word in Greek for chief cornerstone simply meant the peak of a pyramid. The peak of a pyramid. The corner foundation stone or peak of the pyramid. The prefix acro, or topmost, was added by the Jews to the already existing Greek adjective goniaios, or at the corner. In that way, the translators of Isaiah rendered the Hebrew word for corner, pinya, Isai 28:16, describing the stone which was a sure foundation and which probably had reference to the future Messiah. Well understood by the Christian writers was that of an important stone which was both acro, a peak, and a goniaios, a cornerstone. But there are 4 or more corners to a building, and a stone at a corner cannot be uniquely significant. Although you will find in Freemasonry the ceremony of laying a cornerstone for every building that is built, and you look at all the buildings in Washington, D.C., you will see a cornerstone with the Masonic symbols and Masonic date of the mystery schools of the calendar of 6,000 years. Well, we found that we don't believe that it can be significant unless the stone be at the apex of a pyramid where all corners meet and bond together, and that is the secret of the truncated pyramid, missing the capstone on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States. For we have found in our research that in the mystery religion, the master mason is the cornerstone or the peak of the pyramid, the illumined man, who functions as the eye of Horus or the spy for the mystery schools wherever he is at. Just as the Great Pyramid near Mexico City is called the Pyramid of the Sun, so also the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually dedicated to Horus, the sun. A picture of this you may see on the back of any $1 bill. Above the pyramid, folks, is the eye, the sun, the eye of Horus, the Son of God. The New Testament tells us 3 different times that God's Son was taught by and learned all things from the Father. He was the pupil. We are told at Matthew chapter 14, verse 17 and 19, that God's Son tends to his people's needs with 2 fishes. The 2 fishes being the astrological sign all astrologers know as Pisces. Thus we have had for almost 2,000 years God's Son ruling in his kingdom or sign of Pisces, the 2 fishes. As stated before, these signs are called houses. Therefore Pisces is the Lord's house at this time. Truly, the greatest fish story ever told. According to astrology, sometime after the year 2010, catch that date, folks, the year 2010. And remember what I told you about 2001. Arthur C. Clarke is obviously a member of the mystery schools. And Stanley Kubrick, who's responsible for making the movie, is obviously a member also. According to astrology, sometime after the year 2010, the sun will enter into his new sign, or his new kingdom. As it was called by the ancients, this next coming sign or kingdom soon to be upon us will be, according to the zodiac, the house or sign of Aquarius. So when we read at Luke chapter 22 verse 10, we now understand why God's Son states that he and his followers at the last Passover are to go into the house of the man with the water pitcher. So we see that in the coming millennium, God's Son will bring us into his new kingdom, our house of Aquarius, the man with the water pitcher. Once we realize that in astrology each month is assigned one of the so-called houses of the zodiac, and in heaven are 12 houses, are 12 monthly signs, then the words we read of God's Son saying, quote, "In my Father's house are many mansions," unquote, makes sense when translated correctly. The proper translation is as follows: Father's house equals heavenly abode. Mansions equal houses. So correctly read, in the original text we read, "In my Father's heavenly abode are many houses." Yes, 12 to be exact, according to the mystery religion of ancient Babylon. By careful intention and study of the houses, you will be better enabled to interpret horoscopes. It is well to remember that just as the influence of one planet in one sign may be effected for good or ill by another planet in another sign, so the influence of planets in signs in general may be strengthened, weakened, enhanced, afflicted, or otherwise altered by the influence of planets in houses, according to their beliefs. A rule of thumb to remember is that signs measure your inherent qualities. The planets influence those qualities, and the houses indicate directions for them. In other words, the houses indicate certain things, and a planet in a house influences or activates the things indicated. Now this is all according to their religion. If you want more explanation, please ask Nancy Reagan. Anyone familiar with modern-day Christianity must surely know we are said to be living in the last days. This teaching is in part based on the idea expressed in Matthew chapter 28, verse 20 of the King James Bible, where God's Son says, quote, "I will be with you even to the end of the world," unquote. End of the world? Yet another simple mistranslation to clarify, and there are many in the Bible with a proper understanding of the actual words used. This end of the world is translated differently in various Bibles. Some say end of time. Some say end of the days, and still others say conclusion of this system of things. So what does all this talk of the end times or last days really mean? Well, here's the simple answer, folks. According to the mystery schools, when the scriptures speak of, quote, the end of the world, unquote, the actual word used is not, I repeat, not, end of the world. The actual word in Greek is aeon, which when correctly translated means age. That's spelled, folks, A-G-E. Any library will have Bible concordances. Strong's Bible Concordance is a good reference work to use here. Look up the word age in any secular dictionary or Bible concordance. There you will find the word for age is from the Greek aeon, or A-E-O-N. Remembering that in astrology each of the 12 houses or signs of the zodiac corresponds to a 2,000-year period of time called an age, we now know we are 1,992 years into the house or age of Pisces. Now correctly understood, it can rightly be said that we today, in fact, are living in the last days. Yes, according to the mystery schools, we're in the last days of the old age of Pisces. Soon, God's Son will come again into his new kingdom, or new age, and that's where all this new age movement and new age comes from, new age of Aquarius, man with the water pitcher. Luke chapter 22, verse 10. That's right, folks, the new aeon, or the new age. This, according to the mystery schools, is the perversion of Christianity. This is the theme of the Bible, God's Son and his coming kingdom age, the new age of Aquarius. Now, what you choose to believe is your business. Remember, don't get mad at me. I am teaching you the mystery religion of ancient Babylon. And I am telling you right now, many people practice this mystery religion in secret, and they hate Christians. They hate Christians because they believe that Christianity is a perversion of their religion and thus is their enemy. When viewing the shimmering rays of sunlight on a body of water at dawn or sunset, according to the mystery schools, one can still see today how God's Son walks on water. Good night, and God bless you all.
Okay, give me a second and I will update the Zoom if people want to come in and talk about it, discuss it. Let's take the information and see what we get out of it. Yeah, I'm reading the chat. I see that you guys don't care. I think this guy is a kook, but it's not this guy's belief. He's teaching you what the people who are behind everything, that the ones who are in power, the ones in all these secret societies believe. If you don't think that's true, then come on in and let's discuss it. Because if you see everything around you and you understand the symbolism, you have to wonder, why do they keep bringing up all these symbolism everywhere? That includes all the celebrities, that includes the politicians, that includes all the handshakes, the hand gestures, includes all the stories and what have you. Of course, you might be going, yeah, it's just conspiracy theory stuff. These people don't believe in this stuff. They're just normal people. They say they're Christians, so they're Christians. They just happen to do and wear a lot of Freemasonry stuff, a lot of Babylonian symbolism and a lot of occult stuff. And that's prevalent in everything that we see, everything that we listen to. And if you don't think so, well, you can just look. Let's see. Let's do some sharing of the screen again. Let's look at some cult symbolism. Also, what's also pretty cool is in celebrities. Let's see. Actually, I shouldn't even put celebrities. I mean, let's see. There's quite a bit. And you've all seen this. You've probably seen it and gone, yeah, they just like those symbols. I mean, almost everyone does it. They've seen one person do it, so they see another person do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're in some sort of secret society. Why would they need to be in a secret society? I don't know. And if that's the answer, if I don't know, then shouldn't it be something that you should know? And what you'll see Bill Cooper say is, you know what? Do the research yourself. Don't believe me. Don't believe anyone. Do your own research. And of course, there are a lot of people who don't want to do their own research. They don't even want to do research because they have their own beliefs. I mean, what your beliefs are your beliefs, and that is fine. But I like going through the rabbit hole, and with the rabbit hole, I always seem to find information that goes all the way down to the past with symbolism and occultism, and I'm just wondering why. Why do they care so much about this stuff? Why does it have to be in all our buildings and all our artwork, and not just now, but throughout history? I mean, even the stuff that I like to watch, I don't like it. I don't see it. I don't enjoy I don't think it's beautiful. I just think it's just redundant and pretty boring in my opinion. You know, instead of rehashing the mythologies of the past, come up with something new. Why do you think all the reboots in Hollywood are occurring? Because they don't care about originality. They just care about doing what they've always told, the same story over and over the mythology. Some interesting things. Let's see. Freemason in shootings. Maybe here we go. That's a good one. Illuminati Watcher. I watched some of his stuff. He's pretty good.
Hi, everybody. This is Isaac from IlluminatiWatcher.com. I hate to talk about this, but there is something relevant to report here in regards to the Santa Fe school shooting. And the caveat I will throw out there is I'm not here to promote or condone any of the conspiracy theorists, NRA members, liberals, whichever, stance you want to take. I'm merely presenting some ideas and evidence of some buggery afoot, okay? Now, assuming you're already familiar with the details of this shooting, we can go into the darker theories. One is about this mythology being built up. The video gone viral of this man walking around with his MAGA hat and pistol. Supposedly he was walking around with an American flag, trying to say that he's going to make America great again, and he's offering his support through prayers or whatever it was that he was doing. And the counterpoint is this other man who remains unidentified, but he said that the armed man was an embarrassment, and he calls him an idiot, says he's walking down the street with a damn pistol on his side where we just had kids that got shot. He also said he was a gun rights person, but we don't need this crap. This is an embarrassment. Okay, and I'm on board so far, but a friend on my Twitter feed shared with me an image that I retweeted. You can find that on at Illuminati Eyes on Twitter.com. And on it, we see the man in question that supposedly was the counterpoint. And you can see that he's wearing a necklace, which is the symbol of the Freemason composite square. This is symbolism for as above, so below, an idea crucial to the themes of ritual magic, witchcraft, New Age concepts, and so on, which falls under the umbrella of the Illuminati, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but let's look at something else real quick. The Republicans, the right wing of the government, they are typically known for being supporters of the Second Amendment and gun rights. Meanwhile, the left-hand side, the liberals, they're supposedly more in line with gun control and limiting access to guns, okay? That's the official narrative. Now, it's curious because President Trump tweeted a message and he said, blah, 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 do everything we can to keep weapons out of the hands of those who pose a threat to themselves and to others. Now, this, to me, suggests that there are considerations for taking the weapons out of the hands of those who shouldn't have them. And this could be a pre-postured, predictive programming attack against the Second Amendment. But isn't that curious? Why would a full Republican Congress, that's both houses, Senate and the House of Representatives, and a Republican president, why would a full dominated Republican Party government take away the guns when they were supposed to be in support of the Second Amendment? To wrap it all up, as most of you know, if you're familiar with my podcast, Conspiracy Theories and Unpopular Culture, I've talked about these sorts of ideas many times. I am not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm not a member of the alt-right community, nor this. I'm also against the idea that they're trying to pigeonhole all conspiracy theorists as members of this alt-right sort of, skinhead community, which is insane because I've been in this sort of environment for a long time, and it used to be distrust for both parties. So the idea that we're now supporting the one is insane. But that's what the media wants you to believe. They are trying to portray the conspiracy community in a negative light. To me, the First Amendment is the real victim here. They want us to focus and worry about the Second Amendment. Meanwhile, they are going to, keep the First Amendment an issue behind the scenes. They want to try to paint conspiracy theorists in a certain light, but I think that in all reality, they could do something about gun ownership as it relates to mental health. But, in the big scheme of things, I think there's a bigger agenda, okay? And if you believe the theories of the many conspiracy folks that talked about the Illuminati in the past, like David Icke, the Illuminati control both parties, and it's a Hegelian dialect. They're trying to get us to go down the path that they're providing the sort of bumpers for. So we'll see what happens. Now, in regards to this Freemason connection, it's quite controversial. I've actually interviewed a couple of Freemasons on my podcast before, but in the conspiracy community, we label these Freemasons as members of this Illuminati, and that's because of the connections and the beliefs and the memberships of these elitists and occultists like Aleister Crowley, many U.S. presidents, and I agree with it, right? On one caveat is that this guy wearing the necklace, he probably doesn't know, okay? He's not a member of the highest level, 32, 33 degree, whatever Freemason degree it is where you unlock the secrets. He doesn't know the full scope. So I don't think this guy's in the Illuminati or whatever, but the mythology of it is very interesting that they're building this narrative already. The lower level Masons, they don't get privy to this sort of thing for sure. But anyways, the idea here that we need to look at is that the Illuminati orchestrate events such as this is in order to evolve the masses. That's the idea. Now, as the story unfolds, I'll keep reporting on whatever new findings there are, should they happen. But the conspiracy community, I'm sure they'll be, claiming it as a false flag, which I don't always agree with those sorts of things. I need to see a lot of evidence to prove that. They'll be talking about child actors and stage training events, which, maybe there's some truth to that. I'm pretty open-minded for these kinds of things, but I'm also a hard sell on some of these. But the media basically will be using these people that highlight these false flags, like Alex Jones, because they want them to be pointed out for their irreverence, and they want to start public support for removing First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, against this line of thought. They will call the conspiracy theorists dangerous, okay? They want us to believe that the conspiracy theorist community was responsible for getting Donald Trump in office. Anyways, it's an interesting idea. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe. I've got more videos just like.
So this is Illuminati Watcher. He's pretty good at what he does. He just finds occultism, symbolism in pop culture, and just shows people what it is. And it's pretty good. I like listening to his stuff. He goes through movies as well. He goes through music videos. He does, I mean, quite a lot of stuff. I like watching it. I mean, I don't really watch pop culture. I don't really watch a lot of movies these days. I'm busy with the kids. I don't really listen to music. Heck, I even want to watch Avengers Infinity War, and I haven't even got to. It goes through 2018 Olympics, social programming, just a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty much disconnected at this point. So I need someone else who goes through it just to find what's out there. And if I probably listened or watched cable, network television, what have you, I would probably see it. I mean, once you see it, once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. It just sticks with you. So I think a lot of people don't want to go down this road. They don't want to see that, hey, they'll listen to George Carlin and love George Carlin and said George Carlin is right. You know, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And talks about everything that we believe or we think. And the same thing with people like Bill Cooper, Illuminati Watcher. We all think that Republicans and Democrats, they're all controlled by one party behind the scenes, that they're just one big party. And if that is true, then why? I mean, that's a conspiracy theory. You're saying that two separate parties that are in opposition to each other, that have very different viewpoints, all the leaders who are elected are playing on the same team. That's conspiracy theory, whether you like it or not. You just have to admit it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with everyone else. You can think for yourself. And that's kind of what this is. Well, at least tries to be. No one wants to join, not have a discussion. Just type in the live chat. That's fine. I know a lot of Ryan is on. You guys can go out and talk about, I mean, everyone thinks it's kind of the end of the world, everything's burning, what have you, and enjoy and have conversations about it. But, you know, let's try to fight it. Like James says, you know what? Third parties, Green Party, that's the answer. That's the end all be all. Once we get Green Party in, all our problems will be solved. The world is saved, just because of Jesse Ventura and Jill Stein. You know, I was in that same camp too with Bernie Sanders. I was like, hey, so someone we actually want might actually be elected as president. I mean, what is this? Look at that. Look at all the crowds in the stadiums. Look at all the long lines of people waiting to listen to him talk. Instead, you see an empty podium by mainstream media, and a lot of people who are here, who are probably watching for some odd reason, me, who I don't really get more than like 20 views in a live stream, where I don't get more than 100 views in anything. I haven't broken 900 subs. I mean, there's nothing for me to really state, except for people can come on, anyone could come on and talk about it, talk about the subject at hand, or on off-topic days where you could talk about anything. And rather than that, people seem to just like listening to people talk. Cult of personality. The more views, more subs, the more background music, the more extra noise and claps and little superimposed snippets on the screen. You guys are into that. Or the wild or the conspiracy theories, where I'm not even talking about the conspiracy theories. I'm just showing someone who did the research and is talking about the mystery schools. And you can debunk any of that if you want, provide some evidence that that's not what has been in literature, and that they don't believe in that stuff. And all that, the numerology stuff is just conspiracy theory, disinfo. No one really cares about it. I mean, people who make these hand gestures, they just do it because, you know, it's the fashion for like the last couple of decades. It's just, you know, fashion just stays forever. I mean, look at the fashion in the 70s and 80s. Fashion is exactly the same as back then. Oh, wait, no, it's not. How's it going, Garden, with your occult symbolism and your profaneness, I guess?
What's up, dude? I didn't hear part of that.
Never mind. So you don't like this guy? You don't like what this guy's saying?
Yeah,
like
but you're gonna have to chat around for a couple more minutes. I'm almost ready.
All right. Well,
but I didn't want to leave you hanging too much. I saw you were kind of trying to kill time there or something. So
no, not really. I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to come in and discuss this. I mean, it's 2 hours out of probably 41. 2 episodes in. There's 41 more episodes, a couple of interviews, and then afterwards, there's actually even a 10.5-hour video of him doing a live presentation over a couple of days, which I've already shown some snippets.
All right, man. Give me like 5 minutes. I gotta get a drink and take a leak, and I just got done working. So,
yep. Hey, Snork, how's it going? So, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, I don't know what your religion is. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm agnostic. I don't think anyone would know either way whether something is that they believe is true or not. I mean, even if it becomes, I mean, up until the time it happens, we don't know. And anything that occurs, like say some powerful being comes down and says, I am the Christian God, I am the Jewish God, I am the Muslim God, I am the God of Babylon, whatever. How do we really know? I mean, if they're that powerful, they can manipulate our minds like that. They can manipulate matter like that, whatever. How do we know? It could just be some supreme powerful being. Sorry, go ahead, Snart.
Well, sorry about that. The headphones up, get a little noise in here. Is the air cleaner too loud?
Nope, it's good.
It's a heavy pollen season, so I've got the air cleaner right beside me. I personally do not like to make conjecture based on poor foundation of data. So when I look at, what knowledge base do we have, and such a huge magnitude of discrepancy between what appear to be obvious facts and what is in the Bible, that to me it's more of a stretch to believe in God as what he's represented in the Bible than it is to be that there is some other natural system. And then when I say there's some other natural system, whether it exists or, the existence of mechanisms in there are beyond my small ability to comprehend. But everything when I listen to physicists, when I listen to cosmologists and whatever, everything does not fit with the Bible, but everything fits with the science as we see it. So I regret that I wasn't born in a later date when we might know more. And I view it as arrogant to think that people 14,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago did not have an understanding, or did have an understanding. So to me, the magical, the mystical is more more outrageous than the idea that, you know, that they're a watchmaker, an incredible watchmaker with incredible powers, existed to make us, and yet they don't say who made the watchmaker that incredible.
Yeah. Well, the question is do you think the politicians, the leadership, the elite, the people who are behind, who have a lot of power, who have a lot of wealth, do you think they believe in anything? Do you think they're atheists? Do you think they're agnostic? Do you think they're sun worshippers?
Yeah.
Do you think
I would not lump them all in one group. Instead of thinking that there's one group in power, there are multiple factions in power struggling against each other, and some of them have varying beliefs. But from best that I can figure out, there has long been a cooperation between military rulers and the church for controlling people.
Now, which church? Are you talking about the Roman Catholic Church?
Church in general, as a
religion.
Yeah, everything from shaman on has all been to trick the people. Any time that secrets have to be kept, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And do I believe that the two-party system are cooperating with each other? Yes, I do. Do I believe they're involved in events like 9/11? Yes, I do.
And this is from a logical mind. I mean, you're an engineer. You try to do as much research, study, empirical evidence type of stuff as possible. And you're basically a conspiracy theorist, Snork.
I'm probably worse than you.
Really?
Oh.
I didn't think anyone could be as worse than me.
As far as the what is mysticism? What are we talking about? There are aspects of human perception and the nature of existence I don't think we understand yet.
Yeah, but as I get in the other fields, Garden, I see the echoes of the other fields in what people think of as mysticism. Because whatever you don't understand, your brain has this ability to fill in the gaps and make things happen. And you really see this when the brain starts failing with cancer or with Alzheimer's. But you'll get a glimpse of something. Your brain automatically already assigns something to it. Your brain we are wired to make up stories about what we don't exist.
Yes, I mean, are you familiar with that Kurt Vonnegut ditty? Man's got to hunt, tigers got to hunt, birds got to fly.
Yeah.
Man's got to ask why. Tigers got to sleep, birds got to land, man's got to say he understands. Yeah, I understand that your brain processes reality in a way that is, tries to make you actionable, tries to increase your survivability. I mean, it's an automatic camera that goes off 24/7, and it tries to sort and interpret this information. There are things that we can't explain about human perception.
Yeah, I have an unusual sense of balance that freaks people out. I know how easy it is to make people go over the edge and understand things as being mystical. When I'm programming computers, or I used to, I haven't done much programming in many years. when I set mechanisms in place, I see them being just so identical to, well, if evolution would have came to this. As I see the iterations of things, I see it, what's happening in the universe. And I do have a little understanding of physics and cosmology. And what everything comes back to me is that it's absolute hooey. And then when I think of the psychological side to it, and understanding the people and the problems, mental problems, illnesses they had, how they abused people, that I can't seem to think that everything falling on this is conspiracy theory. Every kingdom was a conspiracy theory because everybody conspired to control the masses. And, you'll even hear this from James. A salesman sells you something, you don't buy it. Well, that's true with almost everything. We are just flooded with signals telling us to do things. If a really good way to see this is in cigarette smokers. How many times do you see a cigarette smoker inhale and have to lean back and blow it up?
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, that is a learned pattern. That has nothing to do with the cigarette. It has nothing to do with anything. But they've learned this pattern because they've been sold the cigarette. These are the steps. These are the things you do to look cool. These are the things you do to exist. And no longer are they really doing it just for the nicotine addiction. There's a psychological addiction to the patterns.
Well, actually, there's a practical reason why you don't blow down, or
they'll do it when they're standing alone.
Because you don't want to blow smoke in your nose.
Well, regardless.
So there are practical reasons for it.
You'll see all kinds of practices, though, that people do as they smoke.
There's a certain kind of
smoking vapors. They still do the same behaviors.
Scientific thought often it resents ambiguity. It wants to find answers. Okay, so if you want to think about mysticism, think about it as a placeholder term, like dark matter. Okay, there are things that we don't understand about the nature of existence. What is our relationship with matter on the quantum level? How are we affected by quantum events and these other events that we don't understand? But
here's the thing with technology is kind of an eye opener, because technology, all magic is something that's not explained by science. Basically, when people see me do, say, some type of automated scripting, they go, "Wow, that's crazy. That's like magic." I mean, it's going through so fast. It could do a job of like 100, 200, maybe even 1,000 people, and it's doing it faster. And for many people, they'll ask, "How do you do it?" And I just write in some code. I use this, I use that. And, for them, I could make up anything because they don't understand technology. So I can say whatever I want. They're going to be like, okay, because they don't really care. They just want to see it in action, and they want to see it work. That's the thing, is what we need to do is actually try, whenever someone says something, go and refute it and do the same thing, have people repeat it, and that way that the explanation is true. It's not just made up mumbo jumbo.
We also have to understand the nature of ancient life, which for a lot of people was, we had a couple of 100,000 years where you would work 4 hours a day, and then the rest of the day you would do whatever. Okay. And that just meant observing the world around you and observing the people around you. And this kind of observational skill was passed on generation after generation. And we can see that kind of observation has provided philosophical insights. It's possible that it provides insights also into the natural world. Now, does it use all kinds of absurd symbols and whatever to relate these phenomena? Yes. But can we say that, oh, it's just a matter of time, like science will find the solution to some of these strange phenomena? Possibly, but we also have to understand that there might be things about the universe that the human mind can't perceive and can't comprehend. And none of our tools, since they're based off of our minds, extensions of our minds really in our bodies, they will never be able to detect or reach them. So
now,
when you see strange synchronicities, when you see like people who seem to have levels of precognition, okay, it's hard just to dismiss it as fooey.
You mean like with Hillary Clinton running in 2020? I mean, is that precognition, or is that just an educated guess, or is that just you're right, or maybe that Trump is going to win if Hillary Clinton back in 2016? I called it as well.
And combined with this fact is the point that we don't have access to everything that's going on in our minds. Our subconscious might see patterns that our conscious mind doesn't. And so we have that involved in it too. But mysticism is a combination of all of these things. It's not, I'm going to cast a spell and do this or that. I mean, it is for some people. I mean, we could get into the concept of reality tunnels. I mean, we can say that like there is as many realities as there are living things on the earth. And part of mysticism is being able to get out of your own reality tunnel, be able to see outside of yourself. It's a complicated topic as far as, some of these, like, being able to appeal to a god or access mystical energies or whatever. I mean, I don't believe in any of that.
Yeah, I don't believe in it either. But that doesn't mean that other people don't believe in it as well. I mean, I think people who believe in the Abrahamic religions are kind of silly. Same thing with people who believe in something that's even older than that. Something that might have came about when, say, we were supposed to be cave dwellers, and people are still believing in that. People who hold symbolism and these magic spells, magic with a K, that they still believe in it, and that's older than some of the newer religions out there. And we call a lot of new religions cults.
Well, and is there power in symbols? Of course there is. Like, that's why every army marches with a flag in front of it, and every religion.
But that doesn't give them power.
Why yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, because people bond with the symbols.
It doesn't give them any additional power.
Then why do they use symbols?
Just like so you get two people who are in a boxing match, and one person that wins says it was because of God that I won. The belief in the God, belief in the symbolism doesn't give you any better fighting prowess than the other person. It's just same thing as a flag, same thing as symbolism. It's a belief structure. It doesn't give you actual additional benefits. I mean,
but when you get clocked in the face for the 9th fucking time, and like your belief in Jesus can keep you on your feet. It straight up can. Like, you see example after example of this kind of thing.
The belief in it, but the actual that there is a Jesus giving you that power doesn't exist. That the symbolistic representation doesn't hold any power. It's the person's perception that gives them that power.
Yes.
Or that perceived power. There is no additional power to it.
There's no.
A symbol is just a symbol. It doesn't give any spectacular additional measurable power. Unless I'm wrong, Snork. Does a drawn symbol give additional output of energy or whatever? No.
There's no objective power to the symbol.
It does allow the person to concentrate.
Yes.
I guess that can be true. It gives a focus. I mean,
it provides them with maybe a lot of things. Like, not only the chance to focus, but after you get clocked that 9th time, you're not only thinking of Jesus, but you're thinking of dad because he taught you about Jesus, and you're thinking about like all this other stuff.
I mean, for me, when I'm being clogged, I'm thinking about family. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about things that really matter, that they don't give me additional prowess or energy, but they give me a motivation to keep going in a certain way where if I didn't have that motivation, I probably wouldn't keep going. I mean, that's all it is. The symbol itself doesn't have any power. It's just a representation of a different focus.
Well, Karl Popper had a three-world model. And the third part of that model was the objective contents of thought. And we see in that model, once you get up to the third level of reality, you see things like hammers and computers, things that people conceptualized in their mind and then made real. Okay. So we can see religion and these symbols in the same way. They have a measurable effect on the world. So are they real or not? You know, like religion has a measurable effect on the world. Is it real? Does it have a reality of its own in a sense, separate from any individual? I mean, and then you get into the studies of Carl Jung and archetypes, and, you know, Jung got pretty heavily into mysticism. I'll say that. But these things have a reality. They're both real and not real.
I mean, if
you can accept these things,
here's an experiment. All right, you have one person. We're talking about war, troops marching, and they're marching because the flag and gives them extra power. Well, does it give an extra power to a person who doesn't know what that flag is or represents or what it means or where it's from? It does absolutely nothing for that person. So there is nothing from that symbolism unless it means something to that person. But that symbol itself doesn't give any power. It's just what the person's perception gives them a certain type of focus. It gives them a certain power to themselves. Not necessarily that symbol has any power itself, because it doesn't give power to the person who doesn't understand it or know it or even know what it is or why they're using it or what they're doing.
I understand that there's no such thing as like voodoo fetishes or things like that, like something that has an external power of its own. Okay? Reality is more than just the things around you. And it's more than what's in your mind. It's a relationship between the two. So when you, again, like things like religion have an effect on the world.
Yeah, I'm not saying
things like a hardcore scientific philosophy or neoliberal philosophy. I mean, you can't go out and like touch neoliberal philosophy. Okay, but it has a measurable effect on the world.
For those that
are things that affect the world real. Like these things extend beyond any single person. So it's not just the human being acting of its own accord. It's the human being who has been in a certain environment and has, you know, kind of combined with it in a symbiotic relationship. Like the belief adds actionability to the human, and the human sustains the power of the belief through action.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different what you're trying to say and what I'm talking about. You're saying because some symbol exists and someone understands that symbol and it affects other people and themselves, that symbol has power, being a way of influence. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the symbol itself has no power at all.
And I keep saying that I understand that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to say. But you don't seem to accept that the symbol itself has no power at all.
Because it does.
See,
it does have power, and we give it that power. And in a sense, the symbols give us power as well.
I don't agree, but I guess we'll see what Amanda or Snork has to say. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm thinking this is really funny. You can hear me, right? Because I'm going back to when you first told everybody about the Ouija board on your ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching the chat, and there was just an array of responses. Some people were just like, "Ooh," and then there's me, like, it's just a Ouija board.
Yeah.
You know, and I've come to that. I didn't used to think that when I was into the Christian dogma, you know, because when you're raised in it, and I mean, if you remember, I was raised both not both, but Christian, Wiccan, and Judaism.
So you've been around.
Yeah. So my head was like totally fucked up. It's like, am I going to hell or am I going to heaven? Am I gonna, this is gonna be a catch-22 here, I'm gonna be fucked no matter what, and I went through a lot of mind fuck and I was scared to death of a Ouija board because the church pounded it in, and so did the synagogue, on how evil they were, and they could just draw out demons into your house and blah, blah, blah. Well, I had, unbeknownst to me, moving into this girlfriend's house, she had a Ouija board. And I had no idea. And then she ended up moving out, and nothing ever happened. She said, "Oh, I need, can you set the box out?" There was this like one last box, and it had a Ouija board in it. I just went, oh my fucking God, this thing is gonna go out, and now I'm gonna have all these big demons, right? And nothing ever happened after that. And I went, oh, this is ridiculous. So I really do think, for some people, that symbolism, if you think something hard enough, you can create it. It's like an energy. And so I'm seeing, like, in between you and Garden, I'm actually going like in a middle here, like Snark, I heard your comment about how you can be in that balance thing. I get bitched at because of that too. It's like, well, you got to make up your mind one way or the other. No, I don't. You can have it both if you're okay with that. But this is like down my alley. I was just thinking about all this.
No, it's good.
Well, and there you have the reason, like you were talking about, like why we see these symbols all over the place, right? Like there are groups that put these symbols out, and they've been doing it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and a lot of this are just old relationships with Rome and certain families and certain political groups. All right, but the reason why they do this is to remind themselves they're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of symbols. My symbol is everywhere, and no one knows. Like, that game is getting old to a lot of these people, and they're starting to play other games where, a lot of this stuff is going into, beliefs in transhumanism and engineered immortality, I think, is where a lot of these crazier, higher up groups seem to want to go. Again, a lot of these are mystic beliefs in the lesser sense, as in they are unfounded, like primitive Iron Age beliefs. We see some of this amongst like Freemasons and things like that. They believe in, in what I would consider like lesser mysticism.
Unless
they believe that the symbols have actual power unto themselves. They believe that there are things watching them.
The higher you get into
predetermination, etc.,
it gets pretty wild with symbolism. I mean, I had a boyfriend, and we were in the Freemasons, and I had to get out because it was starting to remind me of the occult.
Did you take a blood oath?
No.
No. Okay.
I was
No,
invited to join the Masons, like the local Mason organization, by my girlfriend's dad when I was like, what, 18 or 19. And it's just like your local Masons are just a Christian like fellowship group mostly. I mean, most towns in America are filled with Christians, so the Masonic lodges in America are usually one religion.
It's they really aren't inviting you to stay at that level. They would try to move you up.
Yep.
I don't know. I like these local ones. I think are disconnected from any kind of wider conspiracy.
If they have the Masonic temple symbolism and all that, and you have their book and all that, no, they're not. You can't have the Masonic temple signia if you're not with them. They would take you to court.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that part.
Oh, they would fight you tooth and nail. You cannot be just lackadaisic or.
You can't use their symbolism.
It's a holy grail.
I mean, there's just so much to cover on it, and we'll eventually get there. But I just don't want to go too far for people. I mean, a lot of people are going to have to deal with another 40, 51 plus hours of Bill Cooper. I'm sorry, but I think this is where I'm kind of going at, is just kind of show people symbolism, and mostly just kind of relearning, researching, just kind of giving people an idea of where a lot of these terms, a lot of these words, specific meanings, a lot of the things that are on things that are pretty much in plain sight. Why do we have them? What significance do they convey? And if it gives power to certain people, or shows people that there are certain powers, that's something for people that they should learn. I think, I don't know.
Vary your sources, man. Use many sources, not just the ones like from that genre,
Now, this is stuff that's a quarter of a century long. And the reason why I like doing it is because a lot of things that are said, done, and kind of guessed at what will happen in the future, like a prediction. I mean, 25 years is a good amount of time to see if it's come true or not.
I mean, are you familiar?
We can even go further back.
Are you familiar with the works of Jung, like at all?
Jung?
Yep, Carl Jung.
No.
I think you'd be interested in checking him out.
I can deal with Jung. He's pretty cool.
Why is that? What's Jung's kind of?
Here's
go ahead. Sorry.
Here's an experiment. Okay, think of a dog. Picture a dog in your mind. Okay, you got the image of the dog in your mind?
It's a terrier.
You didn't create all of that image of that dog. That dog is filtered through through the various things you've seen in your life, through the various things you've been told about dogs, like the way language has been structured, like all kinds of things contribute to that image of that dog. And 90% of them, or at least a good percentage, part of it, you're not aware of why you see the dog that way. Okay. And what Carl Jung does is he tries to draw connections between the similarities in the way people see things, I guess is a good way to put it. Why are people seeing things in a similar way? And he believes that humanity has created a kind of collective consciousness where
when we all see the same thing, we all see the same shows, we all see the same news, we all see the same commercials, that makes sense.
Well, it goes beyond media or anything like that. I mean, these things extend into, if you were living in ancient Egypt, you'd be under the same kinds of phenomena. All right, like your culture would have given you certain ideas about what a dog is, and your language would have given you certain ideas about what a dog is. And I think that's the best place to start. Like when you start studying what symbols are and what they, how the effects they have on culture and the human mind. I mean, Jung's a good place to start. Like that dude, to be frank, man, that dude reminds me of some like Christian like preacher that I hear on AM radio.
You're just gonna have to keep listening, otherwise you're just gonna have to work things out. Jung just sounds a lot like a psychologist. I mean, and that the thing about psychology is that the people who study psychology, this study of the mind, pretty much, they all have something very odd about their. They seem to have traumatic experiences in their past, and they want to become psychologists. They attribute a lot of their behavior and things like that based on their past anecdotal history. I'm not saying that's true. It's just I've known a lot of psychologists. I study psychology. I have my brother who's becoming a doctor in psychology, and I thought the one thing that comes across is people who stay in that field, man, they got some crazy ass issues. But then we're all human. Maybe we all have issues.
Jung is more than a psychologist. I wouldn't even know how to describe what he is, but it goes deeper than just your.
Okay, I'll give it a look.
There's there's two other concepts maybe you should look at the works of Karl Popper and his three worlds theory, and then look at the Hindu concept of Maya.
I've read a lot about Hinduism in the past, and that has a lot to do with the occultism too, which is interesting how it ties.
Hinduism has a lot to do with occultism.
Mm-hmm.
Hinduism has many sects of Hinduism that have mystical beliefs, but I mean, Hinduism is a major religion.
Yep. I mean, there are things that tie a lot of religions together, and that's probably why I've never chosen one. They're all pretty much the same in some ways. I mean, I'm not saying that they're all exactly alike. I mean, there's just something.
I like being unaffiliated now.
Oh yeah. Trust me, it's a lonely life. Yeah. I mean, what is it? 90% of the population believe in some form of religion or spirituality or something. I just can't. It's not that I want to. It's easy to just fit in with everyone else. You don't get the weird looks. You don't get the, odd behavior responses of other people. And, I'm pretty sure people call me wacky, crazy, conspiracy theorist, loony. But I'm not the one that's believing in some form of religion where you can't prove that something exists. Sorry,
well, I've learned to be confident. Oops, sorry.
No problem. It might be just me, but I've known I was an atheist since 1965. About.
How old were you then?
5.
Oh God.
Oh.
You're so lucky.
I got kicked out of church at 5.
Yay.
I got kicked out of Catholic school in 3rd grade.
Oh yeah.
Basically the same thing.
I never got kicked out of anything churchy. You guys were cool.
So I went through life learning things by observation. And whenever I did hear anything about religion, it was usually negative because my parents were devout Presbyterians. And we would drive through the Amish areas. And of course, back then we used the derogatory term hooky. But hook and eye Dutch, they're buttons, they don't have buttons.
I had never known that.
But we drive through the areas and they'd say, oh, they're stupid. They have stupid religious beliefs. we drive by a Catholic church and they're stupid. They've got stupid religious beliefs. And no matter what, everything would be everybody else has stupid religious beliefs. And I'd be thinking, well, what makes you think yours is correct? And of course, I couldn't say that. But, I just saw everybody saying everybody else's religion was stupid. And, at that same time, science was getting to be bigger because of the space race. And I just kind of immersed myself in science at that time. And, taught myself electronics enough that I got a good feeling for science early on. I got it far enough to build a simple computer by around 1969 or 1970, somewhere in that range. I think this absence for such a long time of having a belief does give me a completely different look at it. I still have biases, but I think that the reflexes aren't there because at a young age I did not believe. So my thoughts don't jump like the other people. Well, certainly God did this or whatever.
Define those biases. I'm sorry. What do you mean you have biases? Define biases.
Well, like to me, a bias is with dark matter. I don't believe dark matter exists. I believe dark matter is an aberration because we do not understand time yet.
Yeah, me too.
You mean like an anomaly, or just what do you mean by an aberration?
Most people think of God created the universe and time's moving on, where I don't have that. Where I see time is moving in both directions.
Yes, it is.
And so I see the objects that appear to be negative are those that are operating, going in the other way.
And we have to question if such a phenomena is having an impact on our lives as we experience them.
Yeah. So my bias, is toward the, mechanisms, whatever. But that would, if that was the case, would mean that it'd be possible to predict certain events by the difference between the objects that are moving in the two directions.
Yeah. Again, I don't think we've unlocked most of the potential of the human mind.
Oh, heck no.
And we know its ability to absorb and sort information. Who knows? Who knows what it's picking up on?
Oh, this is exciting shit to me. This is what when I'm not with you guys, this is when I'm all alone in this room during the day, it's like this is the shit I think about, and it's like I love my little trips.
Yeah. And I have these biases too, but mostly from my profession, or at least my previous profession, which is testing. So there are assumptions that the people who have created something know what they're doing, and they tested it, and it's good up to the point where we receive it and we test it. So, and sometimes those assumptions can lead to long hours of this doesn't make sense. But because I've based my bias that other people knew what they were doing when it got to me, so if there's anything wrong, it has to do with my end. But that's not necessarily always the case.
Sure.
And we have these biases not even in a profession. I mean, just someone like these experts in mainstream media, when they're talking about how certain things are, either in the military or in academia or whatever, they'll tell you something and you've got nothing to say, okay, yeah, that guy, I mean, why wouldn't I believe that guy? He's an expert. I mean, even experts can be wrong, though. But we've grown up that way. So snort.
It's also fun. I also had to, look out problems, solve problems. So I'd go out to a factory floor and I'd look at how people were trained to do something. And a lot of times people are trained from the people that just have the same position. And not a lot of thought goes into it. And they will do things pretty much just like the others have. But everybody will tend to, even if there isn't a relationship needed to some point where something has to be placed in a certain place, they'll suddenly creep into the production stream that an extra piece of tape has to be added so that a part can be moved to some place that has no meaning on their desk. and before you know it, all of the parts will have a certain mark on them. What's this mark? Well, that's because you have to have that mark at this point so that it's going to fit later on down the line. When you go through down the line, you think, no, that's not right. That's what's causing our problem.
Yeah,
we want this flat, but for some reason somebody had this piece of tape and it becomes necessary. Or here's a really good one. If you're walking down a crowded sidewalk, take one step to the right, go a couple of steps and go back to the left and go on. And people behind you will start.
And speaking of Aleister Crowley,
hold on.
Speaking of Aleister Crowley, he did that trick.
Mm-hmm.
Aleister Crowley was a scam artist.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And he bilked a lot of wealthy people. That's what he went around doing. And one of the tricks he used was exactly the one that Snork mentioned. And the guy who ended, I'm not even going to say it. Aleister Crowley did some horrible things with the people that he that he got under his wing.
These behavioral aberrations just multiply in factories like you can't believe. Especially, if you got a factory of 5,000 people, you're going to have all kinds of strange things that you've got to investigate and say, "Oh, there's no basis for that."
Well, and the thing is, a lot of religion and mysticism isn't all just the mark that doesn't need to be there. Within it, there is things that have been passed down to us. Again, things that have been gained through tens of thousands of years of simply sitting and observing.
Yes.
So there are things that can be gained from religion. I think the scientific community as a whole would do well to drop what's now become an over emotional reaction to religion.
I don't.
They need to drop it. It's irrelevant. Quit getting I'm not saying you're doing this, but you see a lot of scientists who have a strong emotional reaction to religion. And it turns a normally rational person who's willing to listen to arguments or whatever, into a dogmatist, an ideologue.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion the ones that just get really agitated, they're just not comfortable yet in their atheist. I'm comfortable now. I can just sit at a table I can probably walk into a church and just go out and just let them do their thing, call it good and walk out, and I'm happy. I don't have anything to prove anymore.
Another thing in relation to Snork's story, when I was in the Navy and I was working on the electronic system, and it was a 30-year-old system at that time, and they give you a tech manual, and you're supposed to fix everything by the tech manual specifications. And if you deviate from that, you're pretty much in big trouble, because if you follow it to the T, it's supposed to work. Well, the thing is, with the 30-year-old system, a lot of we would take it apart and it's like, that's not the original circuit board, that's not an original component, part of the circuit board is just gone, and so we can't follow the tech manual. We have to follow the circuitry. And so at that point, we're no longer technicians. We're pretty much kind of pseudo engineers in a way, because we have to figure out what went wrong with the circuit and fix it just using our own thinking and what knowledge that we've learned, and not necessarily just follow an instruction manual. So it would be like getting an instruction manual to assemble something and you don't have all the parts. So what do you do then? Do you just not build it? Of course, you're going to have to find out something else to use in place, and then you make it work. And I think that's kind of what's lost in our education these days is if we blame the manual, we blame the situation, we don't really blame ourselves for not just, okay, so we don't have all the parts. Oh, so the instructions don't explain it very well, or whatever. We just have to kind of adapt to it and figure it out and get it working.
Or create something else.
Yeah.
With it that it wasn't intended to.
Yeah. So it'd be funny because we would work on it, fix it, and we'd come up with these extra parts because we'd always have to have two people working if there's like operations going on. So we look at each other like, so what do we do with this? Just hide it. But everything worked. I mean, if it didn't work, we would still be working on it. So
at one plant, one of my tasks that I had to do was to come up with a completely frustrating part that when a technician would open this computer, that a washer would fall out that they would have no hope of putting back in.
That's mean.
That's terrible.
So, they needed to be able to tell if it was compromised, and if it had ever been opened before, because this would be sealed when it was sent to its use, and if anybody had ever opened it, there better be a log that it had been opened, and an explanation of why the secure item had to be accessed. So this part would fall out, and they would have no clue where it came from.
It's just like it was a movie or something, but you would put like a string on a door and close it, and so if that string was on the ground, someone opened that door.
This was a lot worse, and we actually had to have help from a major corporation to develop a material for us.
In order for the material for the packaging?
In order for it to be how we did it, yeah.
Tricky. But
it was, but I could imagine how many technicians must want to kill me.
So did the packaging web into the mechanism itself? And then when you ripped it, like it would.
No, it was part of the computer.
Yeah. I see.
I would fix certain components, and even so they would have sometimes they'll have the not an RMA sticker, like a barcode, whatever, with it. Or how they'll have those certain stickers like on certain phones, inside certain phones, where if you pull it apart, they know that you messed with it, and so the warranty's void. So what I used to do a lot is just get a heat gun and slowly peel out everything, so this warranty is still intact, but I would make changes to the components to fix it because I didn't want to send it in and stuff like that. I mean, if it was a simple fix, it was something really simple. So it's like, why waste like 2 weeks?
1 year warranty or whatever.
Yeah. And
so you get the sticker back on?
Yeah.
And it would go on and not look weird?
Yeah. I mean, all they do is look at the sticker and see if it's torn or not. And same thing with like screws. Like a lot of laptops these days, they'll put warranty is void if the sticker's gone, because you can't get into the screwdriver unless you go through that sticker. So you have to get tweezers, heat gun, and just slowly pull it back.
Yeah, we used a material called GLIP for that. Did you have that?
Nuh-uh. GLIP,
GLYP. And
we know where the oven's going to be shopping for.
Yeah, we could tell if any screw had been moved.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think these days, like, I don't. A lot of them don't really care. These days, just the parts are just so common, and I mean, if you look at just the rate that things are made. I mean, like right now, what is it? Samsung S9, I think. And if you look online for like, I mean, there's not that much difference between the S9 and the S7, at least the Edge. But you get everywhere. You look everywhere on eBay and whatever. You got the S7 Edge like on eBay for something like $200, and I mean, perfectly fine, perfectly good. But people will pay $1,000 for that new S9.
I need to replace my S7.
Do you have the Edge or just the non-Edge?
Non-Edge. You know, I hate the sensitivity on the sides of the.
Oh, I hate them.
S7 so bad. I can't imagine how bad the S7 Edge must be.
Oh yeah, I don't like the edges. The only reason to get the edges is sometimes on some of the iterations, just the camera is a little bit better. So they give you extra like better hardware with the Edge, just so people buy the Edge. But I don't ever use any of the functions of the Edge part because it just annoys me. And like the S8, what annoys me the most is Bixby. It's like you accidentally press that thing and it compilation of all the stuff that you don't really care about. It's like, no, you can't reassign that button either. And I don't care about it anymore. I just try to avoid it.
This is an S7. You see what my fingertips are doing when I'm holding it?
Yeah.
That's enough to make it think that I'm trying to push something there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So keep thinking I'm either pushing here or pushing here, and it really bugs me.
Yeah, trust me. Like the thing about the Edge, like I have the S8 Edge here, and sometimes when I'm watching a video or like there's a little game or something, you don't get to see the full thing because some of the Edge part is just kind of that it's going to where that Edge part is, so that it's just annoying. I don't like the concept of the Edge. It's gimmicky. I wish they made the non-edges all the way through, but now all of them pretty much are edged. Now it's just different sizes, and what they did is to get you to buy the Edge is like the camera has better camera. It might have like a better, just slightly faster processor or something.
What does edged mean?
So the glass is pretty much, just think of a flat surface screen, but now an edge means at the very edges it's kind of curved, just slightly at an angle. So you could touch that little edge part and open up something like a hotcut, like a shortcut.
Oh heck no, my fingers, nah.
Yeah.
I'd be frustrated all the time.
Yeah, it's horrible. And then what I don't like also is that the entire phone is made out of glass, so it's very slippery, easily prone to break, and I don't mind, like,
Even
it's still,
the back?
Yeah, even the back. And the thing is, they want it because it's lighter, right? The only problem is, well, to protect the phone, you're gonna need to buy something heavy like a case or cover. So it's better just to have the back as like the aluminum or just some type of metal with that added weight. But then you wouldn't even need to have the thing in the back. So I don't know what they're thinking sometimes. I think they just want
glass for waterproofing.
Okay.
Does a good seal against it. But it's thin, it's hard to hold, and it drops at strange times, like bending over to look at something under my bed, and you can see this is a back. You can see how I've got all kinds of chips in the glass.
Planned obsolescence.
I need to replace it.
Wow.
And,
okay.
I'm going to wait until the warranty's out.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, we stopped talking about the topic, so Let's go ahead and join Ryan's channel and talk about rugby.
Okay.
But thanks for joining in. Well, I mean, we're gonna do this tomorrow night, every night that I can for next couple of nights.
Well, I gotta. At some point, there's a video on this topic that I'd like to share. It's about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So one of these nights.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be 51 more nights, I guess, of this.
I don't care. I love it.
All right, that's good. All right.
Now I got.
All right, dude. Thanks for hosting.
No
I
problem.
got 4 loads to put away of laundry so I can have a bed. I switched my room.
All right.
Forgive the mess, but there's the window. Remember how the bed was there?
Mm-hmm.
Now the TV is over there. I'm in the corner over here. My bed is like that. And I put my shelves there. I needed a chair.
All right. We'll see you guys at Ryan's.
I should switch my room.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.